Right, Edmund, may I start the countdown for the public live stream?
You may.
Okay, I'll start the countdown for this public live stream in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Defend section group conversation. I will be your host, David DeSanto. I'm Director of Product for Secure and Defend. You'll also be hearing from Wayne Haber. He is the Director of Engineering for Defend. To kind of give some people some time to throw questions into the document, I thought I would just highlight a couple of the slides within the deck. So let me share my screen. Okay, there we go. So are the slides up? Is that what everybody can see? I'm gonna go with no. Let's select this one. Nobody spoke. There we go. Now you should be able to see the slides. So just a couple of things to highlight. The team is continuing to grow. You can see that here. We're getting close to our target hiring. Right now, the only thing remaining is a engineering manager for the backend team. We continue to focus on maturing the individual categories of Defend. Right now, we're looking at bringing container network security this quarter to minimal maturity. You'll notice if you looked at the maturity table from the last call and today, things have shifted out a little bit. That's due to the fact we're still hiring the Defend team. They've been heavily focused on bringing the WAF to a better state. And then in parallel, they're also working on the container network security. One of the focuses of this fiscal year is to focus on depth in several categories for Defend to help drive adoption. So the first we're looking at is UEBA coming out this year. That's user and entity behavior analytics, so monitoring anomalies that may be occurring within the GitLab application for our customers. Our vulnerability management, we talked about this on the kickoff call, but bringing our new dashboard and MR widget controls and adding additional functionality to them. I just mentioned the container network security, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And then we've talked about the WAF on, I think, every group conversation that have been at GitLab, but focusing on continuing to round out what that can do for us. The last chart I just wanted to highlight, we talked about this on the last kickoff call, but now we're much further along with it. So we are contributing upstream to Cilium and improving the functionality of it so it works for GitLab users. And you will see we do have a demo video of it, as well as we're waiting, I believe, for our changes to be merged back into the open source project. Before I kind of go back over to the questions, Wayne, is there anything you want to highlight with regards to Cilium?
Nope. Thanks, David.
Okay, so let's go into the questions and see what has been added. So Sid, you have the first question. Would you like to vocalize that?
Yeah, David. I put questions in before the meeting started, so you'd have some questions to start off with. I think we should, in general, try to get more people to do that. Just start 5 minutes early, get some questions in. And I think it's super helpful to kind of point out things that you think are highlights and give some more context. In the group conversation handbook page, it invites people to record a video up front and post that the day before so that people can see that and already ask questions based on that. Is that something you've considered?
So I first want to thank you for adding questions. I saw you typing them in. That's why I want to give you a couple minutes to add a couple more in.
I had 3 questions in before the meeting started, so I didn't need more time.
Okay. So first, I agree with Sid. I think it'd be great if people could start adding questions a couple minutes beforehand. That way, there's not a delay. I've noticed it in other group conversations. As for recording a video ahead of time, we could look at doing that. I had not thought about doing that. I think as Defend and Secure become more complex, it's probably worth doing that so people can see what we're planning on talking about and get a little bit of a deep dive, and then hopefully then we can go directly into questions.
Cool. Yeah, the context of my suggestion is that this time, like having everyone in the same meeting, this synchronous time is very special, and we want to be an asynchronous company. So if there's something we can do asynchronous, so for example, recording a video, let's do that not in the presentation, but let's do that via another medium so that people can consume it beforehand. I could have watched it in the gym this morning while I was watching YouTube anyway. Now I saw silly videos instead of your content. And then you have more time. You don't need to go to 2 minutes. You can do 10 minutes.
Sounds good. I think the next one is yours as well.
Yeah, so we know that no feature of GitLab ever got popular without us dogfooding it. Do we have any plans to dogfood WAF ourselves? I understand we're also going to use Cloudflare's WAF probably, but can we do ours on top of that? Or I wonder what the plans are.
Yeah, and thanks, Ed. So the plans for dogfooding our own WAF are to use it ourselves initially for version and design.gitlab.com. We had it in place for those, and actually through that dogfooding and a couple customer reports, there were some availability issues in the applications introduced by the WAF. So we pulled it back out while we worked on those. They were pretty hard to reproduce and then confirm we resolved. But the team's been working hard on that, and we've now believe with high confidence we have it resolved. So we're going to put it back in place. You might ask, why do we want two WAFs? You know, if the Cloudflare WAF is there to protect us from attacks on the internet, why would we have this WAF inside, behind the ingress controller on Kubernetes? Is that I think it's really about defense in depth. It still makes sense to do it for that reason. And it will help us detect and prevent attacks that may come from the inside versus coming from the outside. Philippe and Lucas, did you have more to add to that, I think, in the second comment?
I think one of the main issues that we have here is that we don't deploy GitLab with GitLab yet. I think. Feel free to make me wrong there.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. In the case of version design, those are both applications that run off our auto DevOps pipelines. So it's fairly easy for us to get in front of it there. Obviously, GitLab.com, in terms of the majority of the product there is a bit more of a different beast. In that case, we have to actually get in front of a different kind of traffic than something like design version. And so those are really good testing grounds for us to work off that. There are other candidates as well, and we link this issue under item B here to discuss where else we can use it within the product.
Cool, can I recap? So we're going to put use our own WAF for design and version. And are there also plans to put it in front of the main Rails application?
I think we've discussed it with that team, with the team responsible, and they want to consider it. We want to make sure it works well on version and design first, without
that makes total sense.
We consider that. Yeah, but yeah, it's a good point. We should be considering it for that as well.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say and to add more color on this, which was a good call because we had a huge issue with the WAF that we deployed on version and design.gitlab.com. It was not really a bug on our side. It was a bug in the upstream project that was fixed in 12.8. So I'm really glad that we're dogfooding with smaller projects instead of going directly with gitlab.com.
Me too. And it might even have to wait until GitLab.com is served mainly from Kubernetes, but we can wait, but just want to see the ambition there. Cool. I think, but I'm not sure, we're still planning to use Falco. If that's the case, can we contrast Falco and Cilium?
Sure, I can take the first shot at that. Cilium is to implement network policies, basically a firewall inside Kubernetes. What pods can talk to what other pods and services. And Falco is about detecting anomalous behavior. It could be at the Kubernetes level of the Kubernetes API. It can be at the network level, which is, there's some overlap there with Cilium a little bit. And it also is at the host level, the virtual host running inside Kubernetes. So there's a little bit of overlap, but Cilium is more firewall-like, and Falco is more kind of detection of anomalous behavior, whether it's on the network or otherwise.
Cool. And is my assumption correct that we're planning to use both?
Yeah. So Cilium now for implementing network policies as a feature category, and then Falco in the future under intrusion detection. Is that right, Sam and David?
Yeah, I was going to say, kick it over to Matt, because I think Matt's the one who's been working on it, but your assumption, I think, is sound. We do plan on still rolling out Falco. We just delayed it to focus on getting community network security to be in a solid place first. Matt, is there anything you want to add?
No, just confirming that yes, Falco is what we were evaluating for the IDS or IPS solution.
Cool, makes sense. For user entity behavior analytics, it's cool to see that we're going to do that for GitLab itself first. Is that something that people can reuse in their own application, their non-GitLab applications? Are we making super sure that we communicate to kind of customers like, hey, we want user and entity behavior analytics for your applications, not just for GitLab. It's just that we're starting with GitLab because we want a dog food first. How's that playing out?
So still in kind of the early discovery stages, but when shopping around the idea that we already have some of these tools that our security team is able to kind of use to look for things like this inside of GitLab, we've had very positive customer response by baking that in, especially on the federal side. So people like that as a starting point. If we roll that out for GitLab itself, that should be common across all customers, and then we'll look to extend that out into the application side. So we're starting with kind of what we've got internally already, and then we'll look to build that out. The application, customer applications, is going to be trickier to generalize that.
Yeah, I love the direction. I think you want to be super clear how we communicate that, so that at no point our customers get the impression like, oh, with UABA, they mean just measuring GitLab stuff, not my application. And because of where we start, we want to make sure that we communicate that appropriately. I do love the direction of like, hey, our security teams and our abuse teams already generated all these tools. The first we're going to do is just take those tools, stuff them in GitLab, and make sure that those teams are actually using that version instead of the thing that doesn't ship with GitLab. I think that direction makes a ton of sense to me.
Okay, thanks. Over to Cherry.
Oh, yes. I just want to get a little bit better understanding on slide 9 for container network security. It would be good to kind of get a couple examples so I get a better understanding what kind of capability we try to build from secure and the defense perspective.
Yeah, so I can take that one.
Sounds good.
So for that one, essentially what we're doing there is we're layering in a firewall around the pods that are inside of the Kubernetes cluster. And this allows you to write firewall rules that defend against other pods, even inside of the same Kubernetes cluster, as well as attacks originating from the internet. So I put a few examples on that slide. The one example is an attack coming from the internet. You would be able to filter the traffic there so that the traffic coming in is limited to the ports and even IP addresses if you want that you would expect coming into that particular application. You can also filter the traffic between pods so that you can name specific pods that communication should occur with. So in the instance that an attacker was able to get control of the Kubernetes cluster and instantiate a new rogue or compromised pod, if that pod then tried to communicate with the pod that was running your application, you could block that traffic. Does that help?
That's, you showed 3 examples right here: filter traffic and the block traffic, and internally, if there is a compromised pod, you can also block the traffic. But does this extend to detect which pod has been compromised or has a code that's malicious?
No, that would be more around what I believe Matt is planning with Falco and the intrusion detection system. So that still is further out on the roadmap. Okay. This really is just about blocking network traffic from pods that you don't want coming into your application.
So where do you administrate the firewall policies for the 2 examples you're talking about? So there will be a management console where we will have that set up as a configuration?
Yeah, so right now we don't have a UI or a rules editor for it. That's done in a YAML file in a project as part of your managed ops.
Thanks.
And we actually have a demo video for this one that I can point you to, which walks through, briefly how to set that up.
Okay, yeah, if you can paste the link in, that would be great.
Okay, Tucker, you have the next question.
Hi there. So I'm trying to wrap my head around the security stuff more. My background is standard software engineering, and a lot of times there was, fantastic the magic with the security behind the scenes. So I'm in discussions with a customer, and they're a DevSecOps manager, and so they kind of own that project, and they're very interested in our security roadmap, and they're very interested in our WAF capabilities coming down the pipeline, and I'm trying to help build angles for myself. My question is, with regards to that discussion with them, are we aiming to do kind of like if you're familiar with the 80-20 rule of like taking a large portion of the feature sets that most people need, are we looking to do that? Or with our single platform abilities, are we looking at capabilities to shift left that others are not going to be? And what I'm looking for is down the line, are we going to have unique differentiators that I can sell now? And if so, what would be the best source of documentation to lean on for those differentiators coming?
Sure. So I'll take a first stab at answering your question. I would like to have Matt and Sam also add a little bit of context. So with regard to shifting left, that's more of a conversation around what we're doing with secure. So moving the testing closer to the developer. However, with the WAF, we plan on leveraging our shift left to eventually improve the policies that you see in the operation side. And one of that is a person by the name of Derek, who I don't know is on the call, is the DAST product manager, and is looking at ways to take the output from a DAST scan and then work with Matt and with Sam to import the rules. So that way you can make an improvement to the rules. I don't know if Matt or Sam White, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. I would say that, we're in the process of evaluating what our strategy is here and exactly how we're going to, really deliver on that value that we've started out to add. I think some of our key differentiators and advantages here are that we really own, this whole pipeline. And so as we look at it from the perspective of these rules, in the sense, are a piece of source code themselves, and they need to go through the same approval process that, any other code would need to go through as it gets checked in. We definitely have some advantages and, existing capabilities that we can leverage there. Where we can put any changes into these rules through, a full MR and approval process, so you don't ever have one person making a change in isolation.
And I'll add to that, on the vulnerability management side, right now it's focused on identified vulnerabilities in the source code. So we're trying to do all the testing in the secure stage before it gets out to production. Ultimately, there will be anomalous traffic, indicators of compromise or attack on the application infrastructure. We want to be able to leverage that intel, that insights, feed them back upstream to the left, so to speak, so that we can update configurations or source code as needed. And you'll have a single platform for that visibility and management. So keeping the cycle as tight as possible between the dev groups, the ops groups, and the security teams.
Okay, thanks, team. At that, we've kind of hit the end of the questions. We'll give
Just
it a
turn
couple.
it back. Tucker, did we cover what you were looking for?
I think Tucker started having connection issues because he froze while I was answering the question. I didn't see him unfreeze. Matt answered as well. So yeah, we'll give it a minute or so here to see if anybody has any additional questions. Otherwise, we can wrap up the group conversation. Okay. With that, thank you everybody for your time today, and have a good rest of your day.